Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man whose real worst take last year was saying that ranch sucks. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing good. That is not the case. Ranch is not a good condiment. Blue cheese forever.
Yeah, okay, we could fight about that a lot. This is, I think, a very good show that we like to do every year of giving our worst takes of the year, along with our best takes of the year. I think it's a great way to sort of recap and talk about. I think a lot of people love it when they can come back after the fact and say, "Hey, I was right about this. You were wrong about this." So that's a lot of what we'll be doing today's podcast.
Yeah, it's humbling, but we also got to have a little bit of positive reinforcement in there. So I think it's I think it's a nice blend of things and kind of puts a bow on the season.
Yeah, Kyle, I am way too egotistical to not also include my best takes in this podcast.
Yeah, could you imagine if we just did our 100 worst takes and just rapid fire how dumb we are?
Yeah, I'd just be depressed the whole time. It's funny. So I was going back in doing this, and it's hilarious how basically. So I'm like, okay, I'll read the comments, see what people are angry about, and then when they were right, then I'll put that in the worst, and when they were wrong, we'll put that in the best. But what's funny is that basically everyone was just angry about any team that was going to be bad. Panthers fans, how could you think that we're going to suck next year? It was just whatever team it was just convinced that couldn't believe that we thought that her team might suck.
Yeah. Everyone wants to hear their team's good. Not everybody's good. It happens. At least Lions fans know it, so it's okay.
Yeah, that was maybe the exception. It's interesting. So speaking of that, next week we will be going back, right back into the Lions den, so to speak. We will be doing, starting a week from today, our previews for the 2022 season. Very exciting time.
Yeah, always a fun time. We'll do those once a week, and that'll be good stuff. It'll be entertaining and bring in plenty more of our best and worst takes because it'll be controversial, I bet.
Yes, absolutely. Let's get into the best and worst takes of the 2021 season. Just so the audience knows how this works, I compiled the list. Kyle is going to be reacting to the list. And so there's a bit Jackson-centric here. Those are kind of the ones that I can remember, but I have some Kyle takes for both of these and a lot of takes that were both of ours. I think let's just start off with, I've had a couple and I'm like, yeah, that really didn't work out too well. I think let's start off with kind of an obvious one. I had the Browns winning the Super Bowl last year, Kyle. In hindsight, maybe a bit too high on them.
Yeah, I mean, there was a ton of optimism behind this team, though. They had an awesome offseason. They killed it in free agency. They had built a really strong pool. Their coach had just won Coach of the Year. Baker was coming off his best season as a quarterback. There was a lot of reason to be optimistic. Baker got hurt early. Things kind of went sideways. They had a lot of COVID stuff, if I remember correctly. And then, obviously, Odell Beckham's gone. It looked like Jarvis Landry took a step back. And, I think it was a justifiable take because I thought there was a lot of people confident in the team. Maybe Super Bowl was a bit of a stretch, but very, very good team was definitely in the cards. It just didn't. It was a bad season. It seemed like bad luck.
Yeah, and it's just this receiving core was supposed to be this elite receiving core. It didn't end up being that way. The defense was legitimately good, but then also Baker, we thought could at least be. When I had him as Super Bowl contender, I still had Baker Mayfield as a tier 3 quarterback, but he couldn't even have done that. So it was really, I think, those things as much. And, even someone saying Stefanski is not as good of a head coach as people thought. I also wasn't that crazy high on Kevin Stefanski. So it's I actually there were some aspects that I was correct about being lower on, but then it's just other aspects I was just nowhere close. And also in hindsight, I think maybe I overvalued the running game a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it's hard to be successful when you have quarterbacks playing at a tier 5 level. It's as simple as that too. You needed at least tier 3 out of Baker, and he wasn't that because he was hurt and not as good. As simple as what it was.
Yeah, and they were still a fringe playoff team. I think the Browns were a little bit better than maybe people realized last year.
Yeah, the defense is going to be good again, I think too. They get some consistent quarterback play this season. I think they're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, which they might not have the same quarterback, at least for the start of next year. But that's a conversation for another day. I'm going to go with a weird one for my next worst take. I'm going to talk about Josh Lambo. So this was another one of my takes. This shouldn't be in the worst take. This should be in the best takes. I put that in the wrong one. So we'll get back to that in a second. I think I screwed up my notes here. Let's go with the Bengals. This is a good one for both of us. The Cincinnati Bengals were one that we did not think were going to be very good this following year. They were 2 minutes away from winning it all.
They were. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure we both had them as fourth in the AFC North. That didn't work out.
Right.
And we both expected Burrow to be better this season, especially as he's healthy. But I don't think anybody saw this coming. Yeah, I think even the most optimistic Bengals fan was like, okay, maybe we'll make, a little bit of run, get close to the playoffs. Maybe we'll sneak into the playoffs. I can't imagine that many Bengals fans having this work out this way.
Yeah, it makes me think. Us and them in the chat saying everyone was wrong about the Bengals. LOL. Yeah, certainly. Well, I do have to say though, going back and looking at our podcast, there were Bengals fans that were saying that we were being too hard on them. So even no one could have expected them go to the Super Bowl, but we still maybe were a bit too low on them than we could have been. And I think a big part of it is the biggest reason I think that we miscalculated was just we didn't expect Jamar Chase to come into the league and being a top 10 wide receiver and Joe Burrow being the best quarterback in football debatably last year.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would have had them as a tier 1 receiving core and a tier 1 quarterback.
Right.
In that last season. I don't think anybody expected that to happen. And that's exactly what happened, basically.
Yeah. And I would also say their defense. I didn't expect Eli Apple to actually be a solid role player for them.
Yeah. So there was a lot of surprises to that one. I think that maybe we could have saw, hey, this is going to be a better team than we think. But at the same time, I don't think anybody expected this run to happen.
Yeah, this was a surprise. And let's keep with kind of the same trend so we can still talk about the Bengals a little bit more just because these two are similar. I also have Zac Taylor as one of our worst takes. We did our head coaching rankings, Kyle. Zac Taylor ranked 32nd out of 32 head coaches. He ends up, again, 2 minutes away from the Super Bowl. I still don't think Zac Taylor's great, but he's clearly better than 32.
I thought he got a handle on himself towards the end of the season. Obviously, I'm not going to put him in the top 5 coaches in football. Probably not even top 10. But at the same time, I thought there were some real developments from him, and it seemed like that he kind of learned from his mistakes. I think that was a huge thing, but it certainly looks silly now, but I don't think it was that controversial to say he was one of the worst coaches in football the season before, even if he was dealt a bad hand.
Well, right. I mean, again, you have to go back and think about where we were coming after it, and that's kind of why some of these I'm like, yeah, that was a bad take. Whereas some of these, it's more so this was a fine process. It just didn't work out. This is one to me where I don't know if it was. I think it was a fine process where he was coming off of having the worst record in football and then the 5th worst record in football. So the results were not there, and I still don't think the X's and O's are fantastic. But for a guy who kind of now his selling point is he had results and he developed young players. Well, we didn't know those 2 selling points heading into last year, so I can't really blame myself too much for having him as low as we did.
Yeah, and if he continues to develop young talent, guess what? He's going to have a coaching job for a long time because that's such a huge key to keep sustaining success.
How long? What do you think Zac Taylor's leash is at this point?
I mean, it would have to be kind of a disaster season for him to be on the hot seat, right? Like a 2-win season, basically, which doesn't seem possible. I think he's got at least a couple of years that he can bank on with this one.
Yeah, I think so. I think, but could it be possible, if the Bengals make the playoffs 3 years in a row, but he doesn't look like a good head coach in any of those years? Could we see him being one of the sort of the rare we have a good roster, we don't love our coach, let's get rid of the coach and try to upgrade there?
It's possible, but you have to understand too the organization that he's working in.
Right.
This is what the most loyal organization and also the most cheap because they don't want to pay a buyout. This is the most loyal organization in football. I mean, they're going to keep. If he's making the playoffs every year, they're probably like, okay, we're cashing checks. We feel good. They're probably going to keep him around a little longer than we think.
Yeah, you're right. His leash is 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at how long Marvin Lewis got.
Did Marvin Lewis even make a Super Bowl?
No. Did he?
Yeah.
No. Not great stuff with Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis, maybe that'll be our worst take next year. He'll come out of retirement and make a Super Bowl.
You never know. We'll see what happens.
Never know.
I highly doubt it.
Probably not. Yeah. Seems unlikely. Let's go back to one of my worst takes. I'll go Kadarius Toney as one of my worst takes here, Kyle. And I still don't I guess this is still a bit of a to be determined because he was banged up last year and he still was a one year player. But I had Kadarius Toney as my number one wide receiver. In hindsight, Jalen Waddle and Jamar Chase probably should have been ahead of him.
Yeah, this was one of your hot takes, and I mean do you have the other part of this later? I don't want to spoil it now. Of your wide receiver rankings,
I guess are you saying like the Jamar Chase?
Because I think you had Jamar Chase like 6th or something, didn't you?
I had him three. I had Toney, Waddle, and then Chase, which I think Waddle and Chase was a legitimate argument. But obviously in hindsight, we can throw the Chase into this mix as well. Obviously he was the clear-cut number one wide receiver. I said everyone's too high on this guy. Clearly, no. He should have been number one.
Yeah.
And as again, a chatter says, Urban wanted Toney too. LOL. Yeah. Great minds, me and Urban Meyer thinking alike.
You guys are on the same wavelength. Yeah, I mean, so the obviously, overlooking Chase a little bit added to it. But yeah, I mean, there's still flashes from Toney last season that I was impressed. The guy, between punching people and getting hurt, couldn't stay on the field. But talent-wise, I still think there's talent there that we could see him having a productive couple of seasons career. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I still kind of stand by with that. I acknowledge wide receivers, difficult to evaluate. It might just not be my thing. My way of how you get good wide receivers is just like sign them or trade them or draft like 4 in the 3rd round. Like that's kind of my mindset with how I would go about getting wide receivers.
The Eagles do it too.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, you're right. But I think that with, part of my logic with being a little lower in Chase, which I still kind of stand by, is like the way that he works, even in the NFL, it's like you see it and it's like, this really shouldn't be working this effectively. Like it still is kind of like, oh yeah, he's just able to be effective. Like, he's just able to consistently make these contested catches. So it's like, okay, he's right. It worked out. But I feel like typically that guy ends up being closer to a Corey Davis than a Jamar Chase. So I actually stand by that process a little bit. But, I think that maybe Toney, I got a little bit too excited about the splash plays. And there wasn't quite as much consistency as the other two guys. But, I still like a lot of them.
I still think he could be a good player. I don't know if I'll ever hit Chase levels, obviously. And I agree. Those guys who make those contested catches consistently are hard to evaluate because for every Mike Evans you have and every Jamar Chase you have, there's the N'Keal Harrys on the other side who don't work out. There's there's plenty of guys in that situation who don't work out. And, as I've put my stake in Drake London, who's another really good contested catch guy, we'll see how it works out for him too.
Yeah. Exactly. Also, someone in the chat saying, Jackson, what is going on with your hair, bro? LOL. Listen, I'm living in Florida. It's like 100 degrees out today. All right. Frizziness is going to happen. This is just what it is.
Yeah. He's too focused on the Stanley Cup Finals. He doesn't have the playoff beard, so he's just got to let it flow, man.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Let's move on. Let's go to one that we were both, again, wrong on, but I don't know if I hate the process behind it. The Philadelphia Eagles, we both thought were going to be one of the worst teams in football last year. They ended up not only not being one of the worst teams in football last year, playing in a playoff game. The Eagles doing, a lot of good stuff their first year and really kind of, I think, surprised both of us.
Yeah, I mean, teams that are $30 million under the cap or whatever it is shouldn't be successful in the NFL. That's not how it should work. It worked out for them, and I think part of it was too that the Giants kind of combusted and the Balls kind of lost their quarterback. So I think that added to it. But teams that are that far under the salary cap typically aren't successful. They just kind of made it work, and they made it work, and they were good. It wasn't a perfect team, but hey, they had a quarterback who can manage the game and make some big plays. They started to run the ball and started to see success, and they had a good defensive line they could lean on and had success. If you have those things, you can at least be somewhat successful, and they were able to capitalize on kind of a weak bottom of the NFC and get it there.
Yes. Also, the chatter who was made a joke asked me about my hair. Now, a super chat saying, let it flow, let it flow. Yes. Appreciate the super chat. Always appreciate the super chatter. But yeah, back to the Eagles. I think that, Devonta Smith also just did a ton for this team of having a guy who can just like beat man coverage and like just sort of be a good option to throw to. I think helped a lot.
It'll be fun to see this group with him and AJ Brown. But like, even then, going back to it, like, okay, so they made the playoffs in the NFC. They got the 7 seed. If you were to power rank all of the NFL teams, are they the 14th best team in football? I don't think so.
As in last season,
Yeah.
probably not. There's probably a couple of the AFC teams that would have been ahead of them.
Yeah, I mean, they capitalized on some things, and credit to them for making the playoffs and doing it. But I do feel justified in their process here.
Yeah, I think so as well. Let's move on. Okay, we'll do one more of mine because again we got more of mine. Let's just go with the other. This is the other one. Where I'm like, yeah, that one in hindsight. I think Kellen Mond was one of those. I think I've really talked myself into Kellen Mond a little bit. Listen, I still think Kellen Mond is a good prospect. I still like Kellen Mond, but I definitely think this is maybe a bit of a confirmation bias coming into play. I hear this stuff about Kellen Mond and I watch the tape and say, oh yeah, it's right there. Whereas maybe I'm, did not pay enough attention to some of the potential negatives, or maybe Mike Zimmer just sucks and he'll be good. But either way, being as high on Kellen Mond as I was, in hindsight, again, probably too high.
Yeah, I mean, it's still year one, so I'm going to give him a chance. Maybe he'll get a chance to get some starts and impress. Mike Zimmer's endorsements obviously aren't very high, so that's a problem. If your head coach is saying, well, I've seen him on the field, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, that's tough, right? Obviously, Mond couldn't even get to the backup role last year. There was an game where Cousins was not able to play due to COVID, and they didn't have Mond. Mond played 3 snaps last year and threw an interception in one of them. So not ideal. It didn't look particularly great in preseason either. So there's stuff to like about Mond. Again, I'm not discounting this whatsoever, but just sort of where I was at Kellen Mond last year versus now, I'm like, yeah, I definitely don't feel with him the same way I did last year.
You wouldn't rank him number 2 if you redid it right now?
Well, I didn't rank him number 2 last year. They played him a little. Number 3.
Number 3, sorry.
Yeah.
You wouldn't rate him number 3 this year?
Probably not. Yeah, probably number 2 or number 1 this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Oh, number 2 behind Mac Jones.
I mean, that's the obvious one.
Right. Exactly. We don't have to spend forever on Kellen Mond. Please, let's not spend any more time on that. So we have a few more left. I think this one's a good one that we can kind of talk a bit about, which is just our weekly picks in general, which is, I mean, we got a lot wrong here this year, Kyle, and especially like the divisional round and conference championship. I mean, I believe I outpaced you in those 2 rounds by getting 1 game right in those.
Correct. Yeah, it was a rough season for picks, that's for sure. And part of it was our belief that the Bengals weren't going to keep winning, even though they kept winning. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great performance from us this season, but a lot of variables I thought went into this with COVID outbreak stopping the season, just a lot of stuff going around. I think I'm expecting a big bounce back season for us, and I'm going to win this one. That's what's most important.
I mean, you haven't won yet. I'm like the Tampa Bay Lightning going for a 3-peat here, Kyle.
I'm like the Premier League champions. I've won the regular season twice and lost in the playoffs twice.
Yeah, you're like an Aaron Rodgers. So you need to show up when a game's matter most.
Oh, how dare you!
I'm just saying. Soon you'll be showing up on Pat McAfee.
Soon I'll have, Blue of Earth will be living at my house or something.
Don't have too much comments. I have to say, I am on team pro Aaron Rodgers again. I think Aaron Rodgers is funny. I want Aaron Rodgers in the league. I think that I like the chaos. I like it when there's stuff to talk about. I am pro Aaron Rodgers again.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really have an opinion one way or another. I think it's a little weird sometimes, but do you, man? If you want to, be difficult, you can be difficult. I don't care.
Yeah, I like it. I don't want. Again, maybe it's just I've been watching too much hockey recently of all the get pucks in deep talk. I like this. Now we have in the NFL the best quarterback is dating a witch. I think this is just fantastic.
Yeah. Did you watch? You didn't watch any of the match, right? Compelling stuff.
What happened?
Brady and Rodgers sunk a putt to win the thing. Rodgers is an impressive golfer, I gotta say.
Okay,
he's very good.
Maybe he missed his calling as a golfer. Maybe that's why he wants to retire. Last year it was to host Jeopardy. Now it's to be a golfer.
Yeah, You know who's not an impressive golfer is Josh Allen.
I heard he had a disappointing day.
He was not helping Patrick Mahomes out too much.
Yeah. Hey, well, Josh Allen is used to not having too much help. Now it's the other way around.
Yeah, well, it's funny because he was horrible the entire day. Then on the last hole, he almost sinks this like 90-foot putt, and he was like within inches of hitting this thing. And the rest of the day, though, not too great.
Yeah. Oh wait, I almost said okay, let's move on, but let's move on back to what we were talking about. Not we just got completely off the rails. Yeah, I mean, our weekly picks were not great this year, but it's also like this was just a really unpredictable year. Like I remember,
it was a crazy year.
Yeah, like I remember, like I looked up the Vegas odds for the playoffs, and I think I was only I don't know what you were at. I was only one game behind what like Vegas had it at. Like I only missed one more game than Vegas did. So it was just kind of like when there's a lot of upsets, you're going to look worse. I didn't think it was actually as bad as maybe the numbers would suggest, mostly just due to like it was unpredictable. Yeah, I had the Colts beating the Jaguars week 17, or week 18. They missed that one.
Well, the couple of, they're like almost every good team had like a really weird loss too. So that's at least once a week where a good team's losing to someone they shouldn't have lost to. There's a whole lot of that going on this season. It was a crazy year. It was one of the better NFL seasons, I will admit.
Yeah, I still say best season I've seen. From as just someone covering the game, not like, okay, obviously the best year was when my team won it, but like, taking that out of the equation, like just from start to the end of, it felt like there was just so much entertainment to be had. Week 1, the Cowboys-Buccaneers game was electric all the way to incredible postseason and a satisfying Super Bowl win.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what other season would have been even comparable. I don't know, but I'm all for it. It was really good.
Right, because like I think about some of the great Super Bowls, like the 28-3. I remember like that postseason was horrible up until the Super Bowl. So it's interesting.
Half the Super Bowl stunk.
Right, yeah. I guess technically you'd say both were very lopsided, just both halves, just in different ways. Let's go here. This is going to take a little bit of explaining. Safeties. This one wasn't. We needed a 10th one here. I was not very high on Trayvon Moorhig, which in hindsight he played well for the Raiders. So also you were very high on Richie Grant, who I remember did not has yet to live up to the hype. So again, not a huge one here. We don't spend forever on it, but we needed a 10th one.
Yeah, it's also there's another E there that you're missing, but it's okay. Yeah, I mean. I still have faith in Grant. We'll see if he continues to develop, but obviously that secondary for Atlanta was bad outside of A.J. Terrell. So hopefully he can help him out a little bit. And yeah, I mean, Moorhig. I still haven't figured out how to say his name correctly.
I say Moorhig, but I'm not sure if that's right.
Moorhig. Well, I'll go with Moorhig. That's fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he really was impressive, and that was something they needed too because they had some weaknesses in that secondary, and he was able to look really good in his rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, he outperformed first round pick Jonathan Abram.
Well, that's not hard.
Yeah, how dare you, sir? The Hard Knock star himself.
We got that pick right. That's okay. That take.
Yeah, that take is not one on this list. 2 more of our worst takes before we get to our best takes. So let's do one that's just really just yours. And again, I don't feel strongly about this. Like this is not a you specific take, but you were very high on Trevor Lawrence, and you felt like he could be. I believe you had him as your offensive player of the year pick. And
rookie of the year.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, offensive rookie of the year. Which was not a hot take by any means. This is the common take. I did have to take credit to me a little bit of. I thought he would have take a little bit more time to assimilate into the NFL. Although I thought it would be. I still thought he would have a better year than what he had. But, I'll give you the floor on your horrible, awful take that Trevor Lawrence would be good.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some flashes that I saw that I think he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL. There's still reason for optimism. Part of my take, too, where I thought he was going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, that I thought he was going into a lot better situation than what he did. I thought that, James Robinson coming off a really good rookie year, even though I thought the ETN pick was a bad pick, I still thought he would help the offense a little bit. Sure. I thought this receiving group would be a little bit better with DJ Chark. I thought Laviska Shenault would be better too this season. There were some guys there that I thought would be better. And the season before, their offensive line actually graded out solid. So I thought, like, hey, this offense, like, I don't think this is going to be a good team, but I thought this offense is going to be at least something that he could build around and work with. And then from Urban Meyer being a complete disaster
Mm-hmm.
to the injuries at wide receiver, Shenault not taking the leap we wanted, ETN getting hurt, the offensive line taking a step back, Urban Meyer not liking James Robinson for some reason. This
Right.
offense just turned into a complete disaster, and he was a part of it. So I thought there was at least building blocks here to be successful, and it just kind of went all up in smoke after like the first couple weeks.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's like turns out Trevor Lawrence wasn't as successful with under an Urban Meyer team with wide receiver one Laquan Treadwell. Turns out that didn't work out as well.
Yeah, that's a really hard situation to find success. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of optimism building for that Jaguars offense, and then everything just kind of came tumbling down. And I think it really affected Lawrence's first season. And, to your credit, as you said, I think there's some obvious growth things that he has to learn through, and he's going to make a few mistakes because he had some obvious flaws now that we look at it from college of forcing throws, not reading coverages correctly that I think he's going to develop and learn.
Yeah, and listen, I probably should have had Zach Wilson on here. That's one that I definitely could put on there because it's essentially the same. I did the same thing of hey, here's this guy with a lot of potential. I think he's going to be great, and it's just like part of it is rookie quarterbacks are weird. Like it's just hard to figure this stuff out. Like we're there. It is a guessing game to some degree.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard. And first round picks, especially at quarterbacks, it's about a 50-50 chance. I still believe Lawrence is going to turn it around, but not a great start to his career.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on. Final worst take. I'm gonna give it myself. Julio Jones. I was really ready for Julio Jones to take off and be a real threat with the Tennessee Titans. I thought that this was going to be a great trade, and I thought that teams were going to say soon, "Wow, Julio Jones only a second round pick. What a horrible decision that this was by the Falcons to give it up for just that little. Why didn't any other team get more?" And well, this is why, because this is the risk factor, and that risk absolutely came, true. Julio Jones was not able to have the season that many of us had hoped he would.
Yeah, I mean, so like even like I think even I said like I don't think he's a like elite guy that he was before. But even
Hmm.
like I thought this was going to be a good play. I still thought this
Right.
was a good trade for the Titans. I thought at minimum he was going to be a solid, if not top tier number two wide receiver. It just didn't work out that way. He was hurt again. He couldn't stay on the field. And when he was on the field, he wasn't particularly effective of getting open and making plays. So really rough year for Julio. I hope he's able to have kind of a resurgent year, but it's not looking good for him right now.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe he goes to the right situation and things work out. He's kind of one of those guys you don't want to bet against, but last year if you bet against, I bet on him and it did not work out. So that is our worst takes. Now let's get to here's the fun part for us, Kyle. Less fun for the fans, but more fun for us. Let's do our best takes, and let's start off with the one that I accidentally teased earlier by screwing up my notes of the Josh Lambo. This is why I want to talk about this because I think everyone is saying I have no clue what your Josh Lambo take was. But I was going back and looking, when I was searching for takes that we had last year. One of them was people got very on me, and I got it was actually a very big point of contention in the Jaguars preview of me saying Josh Lambo was a tier 3 kicker because I was concerned about potentially his health. Lambo ends up, quickly not being a Jaguar, or quickly, not getting able to get much playing time. And again, there was the whole Urban Meyer situation involved there. But I think that paid dividends and also goes to show exactly how this podcast works of me taking a kicking ranking way too seriously while I believe you were just laughing at me arguing with the chat over Josh Lambo.
That sounds about right.
Hmm.
Credit to you, I guess. I mean, that's good. Listen, the funny thing is like kickers are the outside of Justin Tucker and the elite guys, basically.
Hmm.
It's really hard to like have definitive takes about kickers because
Right.
it feels like there's more variance than any other position from year to year.
Hmm.
Obviously, a lot of it seems to be psychological. Missing a kick can kind of spiral you out of control. You know,
Hmm.
there's certain effects, and obviously, there's a bit of other things that affect your ability to make field goals. And he just seemed to be kind of he seemed to be kind of hurt because of that, because he wasn't nearly as good as he was the season before. And yeah, I mean, just not a productive year from him. And is he even on a roster right now?
I would have to double check.
We'll get IT on this. Let's see.
Yes, but yeah. Well, I do have to say though, Josh Lambo was involved in one of the more famous kicks of last year.
Which one was that one? I can't
That
remember.
was Urban Meyer kicking him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Josh Lambo is a free agent, so he's still available if anyone's interested. But yeah, I mean, that's he's got that going for him. He was kicked by Urban.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, not sure if that's the one that everyone was dying to hear us talk about first, but that's where we went with. Here's a good one that we're both on. Mac Jones. We were both very big fans of Mac Jones. We both liked the idea of San Francisco drafting him 3rd overall. San Francisco did not make that pick, and again, plenty of time left. Who knows what's going to happen? But Mac Jones was a fantastic rookie right off the bat, and I think really, showed that the Patriots Super Bowl window is very much open for these next couple of years because of how Mac Jones played, early on, where now he's getting paid nothing and you have a real chance.
Yeah, and I don't know, I still think he gets some hate that I just don't understand. And I can't tell if it's just people don't like the Patriots or what, but I feel like there's still people who don't like him. And look, obviously he had the game where he threw the ball 3 times and won. That was a little goofy. But at the same time, you cannot look at last season and say, okay, he was easily the best rookie quarterback in the class after the first year. You don't have to say his ceiling's higher than Lawrence or Zach Wilson, but you have to say he was the best rookie quarterback of that class without a doubt. And I still think there's room to grow. And like you said, San Francisco might be in the Super Bowl if Mac Jones is their quarterback. I mean, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think exactly. It's it's still a discussion of which quarterback would you rather have, just because it is one season and ceiling does matter with some of these guys. But Mac Jones clearly was the best quarterback last year. That's 100% true. I do have to say, though, I think part of the pushback comes from, people don't want the Patriots to have another quarterback. That's just not what the average people want. I actually do want the Patriots to be good again. I think that it's funny that they were bad for that one year. It was funny when they got crushed by the Bills. But okay, I want the evil dynasty to come back. But so that's an element of it. I also have to say, when I've been doing a question of the day series on my show where I ask the audience a question and then they answer it and we talk about it on the next episode. So I did one with Mac Jones. There was a lot of Tom Brady comparison, which also might be why some people are kind of fighting back the Tom Brady comparisons a little bit. Might not win 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a stretch. But you know what? I'm gonna ride with my guy. I like Mac. I like that he's I think he's gonna be a good quarterback. And guess what? I think he's gonna of this class, I think he's gonna be the best quarterback next season too. On the record, bold take right there. I think he's gonna be the best quarterback of the group next season too.
Man, better than Davis Mills?
Yes.
Davis Mills will end up on this list next year, one way or the other. Whether it's good or bad, he's ending up on the list.
Davis Mills has some sort of cult following I don't get.
Yeah. That's one of those where a movie is all of a sudden people love it, even though it's objectively a bad movie.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's okay. He won't be the quarterback after next season, or he might not even finish this season.
Mac Jones or Davis Mills?
Davis Mills.
All right, well there you go. Let's move on. Speaking of Davis Mills, last year's Davis Mills was Sam Darnold, who we again was 32nd on our quarterback rankings list last year. That was one. People were very much pounding the once he's away from the Jets, things are going to be good. And even 3 weeks into the season, I mean, I know now it seems obvious, oh yeah, Sam Darnold sucked. 3 weeks in, it was the popular take that Sam Darnold was fixed and he was good now.
Listen, this was a anti-Adam Gase thing, which I think deserves some, he deserves some blame. It's
Sure.
Okay. Adam Gase is not absolved of blame for his tenure with the Jets. That being said, your quarterback also has to be kind of good. Mm-hmm. And there had been, if you just watched football, you would say, hey, that quarterback isn't very good. Sam Darnold doesn't look great. And I think we were kind of on, okay, look, there's obviously, individual talent here that has some impressive moments, but he's not a very good quarterback. And it proved once again that he's not a very good quarterback.
Yeah, it was one of those things too, where it's like people love to say, "Well, look at the situation you're in," but I still stand by. You can evaluate people even if you're in a bad situation, and you can evaluate players even if they're in a great situation. Like unless you're just looking at passer rating, like you can still figure this stuff out, even regardless of what situation they're in.
Joe Burrow has basically played behind cardboard the last 2 seasons,
Hmm.
and his
In
rookie
fairness,
year.
he's throwing to Jamar Chase though.
But his rookie season, he did not have Jamar Chase. He
Sure.
had T. Higgins is nice.
Hmm. Tyler
Tyler
Boyd's good.
Tyler Boyd's nice, but it's not
Yeah.
like, that was a tier one receiver room before Chase got there. You
Sure.
know, he's been basically playing behind cardboard his first 2 seasons, and one of them he didn't have a superstar wide receiver. And there's still moments of brilliance from Burrow that we didn't see from any of these guys who look bad.
Yeah, I also think another element with this is I think people give the offensive coordinators too much credit a lot of times. Where like I think
Mhm.
Adam Gase is like, oh, it was just Adam Gase was so bad. It's like you can't be that bad. Like if you're an NFL head coach, you're not going to be so bad to where you're going to get good talent around you and have them look just completely trash. Like I guess like okay, like Jeff Fisher with the Jared Goff thing. Maybe you could make it work for a little bit, but like it's not going to be that dramatic. There's typically also going to be some talent issues along with the coach.
Yeah. I think there's a lot that goes into it, but you need to see some promise, I think, out of your quarterbacks. And, if you're looking at a guy like Darnold, I just didn't see it. I didn't see out of him, and I still don't see it out of him. And he's probably going to start week one for the Panthers. So we'll see.
Yeah, probably. Let's move on. Just another one that we got criticism for. You had them third in the division. I had them with 7 wins. The Miami Dolphins, who someone in the chats, people, it's one of those weird things where people like constantly move the goalpost to what I've said. I said like 6.7 wins. Someone in the chat earlier had it as me said that I had them as right here. You thought the Dolphins were only going to win 3 games? No, I did not think the Dolphins were only going to win 3 games. I had them at rounding up to 7. They won. I guess they won 9, right? 9 and 8, which is above 500. But the Dolphins were, by many people, thought were going to be a clear-cut playoff team. We both kind of said, not so fast.
Yeah, not so fast indeed. And you know what? You had them at 0 wins, but at the same time, they
Right.
I'm just kidding. They weren't a great team. And I mean, if you look through the thing too, a lot of it has to do with, they went through, the Texans, which, it's the Texans, and they won 17-9. They went through Baltimore, I believe, that was Tyler Huntley, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that was Lamar. That was probably their best win last. But that was that's a Brian Flores game. Flores scheme that went up really well.
Yeah. And then you had the Jets, which, is the Jets. You had the Panthers, which we just, made fun of their quarterback for 10 straight minutes. We had the Giants here with Mike Glennon as a quarterback. We had the Jets again. And then we had the Saints in Monday, December 27th, which Ian Book was their quarterback.
Right. I mean, Ian Book was so bad. Oh, my God. Yeah. Ian Book is just the worst. I had him as undrafted, and that was a take I was right about, too. He should not have gone drafted.
So, I mean, that's your 7-game win streak, and then you beat the Patriots twice because my team hates me. But, I mean, it's an okay team, and I think it's going to be an okay team next season, too. We'll see. But, I don't think it, I don't think that it was a hot take to say this team wasn't going to make the playoffs, even though they were close.
Yeah, I think so as well. When you talk about your team, I think we were both right about the Patriots. We both had the Patriots as a playoff team last year. The Patriots made the playoffs. I think that there was kind of some talk about this. Are all these free agent signings just kind of acts of desperation? Maybe a couple did not work out, but I think that this counts as a correct take, that we were correct that the Patriots were going to have a bounce back season this year.
Yeah, and I think it's a team that's still growing and hopefully is going to get better. We'll see. 2 bad losses to the Dolphins. You're looking at, other games too where they were in it, but just couldn't, make things work. They had that Saints game where they ended up losing by 15, where they had it 21-13 with a chance to get a stop and tie the game. They had the Tampa Bay game, which they had a chance to win. They had the Dallas game they sent to overtime. Those are two playoffs. New Orleans didn't make the playoffs, did they? I feel like it was so long. No, they did.
Notice the Saints did not make the playoffs. They nearly did. It was if the 49ers lost to the Rams the final game of the season, the Saints would have gotten in.
Yeah, I mean, so they had 2 playoff teams and one that just missed the playoffs without their starting quarterback the most of the season. And you had the Colts, the Bills, which were other close games too. I mean, I thought this was a solid team that's going to get even better and is still developing. So we'll see how it goes, and I think they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll. I mean, we'll talk about it more in the preview. But losing J.C. Jackson hurts.
Yeah, it does, and the AFC getting a lot better makes it even more difficult. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see about that for sure. Let's move on. So we have five good takes left. I have two Kyles, two Jacksons, and one both. So I'll do one of mine, one of yours, the both, and then we'll keep going in that trend. I'm gonna go with the Bears, which I have as mine. It's kind of yours too. I mean, we were both lower on the Bears, so I could have probably been both. But like, I think I think identifying where the Bears were going to be really struggling in the following year, not just with the rookie quarterback, so it's going to be tough. I think some people felt like, hey, they made the playoffs the year before with Mitchell Trubisky. If Justin Fields comes in and has a solid rookie year, this could be really good. And if he doesn't, if it takes him some time, then okay, they'll probably miss the playoffs, but that's okay. I was kind of saying, I think even if Justin Fields looks awesome his first year, this still wasn't going to be a playoff team. Their secondary was a big concern, and offensive line's a big concern, which turned out to be very true.
This has been like a 3-year thing for the Bears for me.
Uh-huh.
I think I said 2 years ago that they got lucky to make the playoffs, which is kind of unfair, but I still think is kind of true. This was an anti-Matt Nagy thing for me too. I don't know how they won 6 games. But yeah, I mean, I think that this is a team I'm still not really high on too, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, this is a take that I think I can agree on, that this was right, that this Bears team was not in a position to be competitive, and I still feel that way.
Yeah. Someone in the chat is very impressed with your takes, so I won't read that comment, but yeah, good stuff there. Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and I was right about Justin Fields not being too impressive, although he still did show some flashes. Fields did some nice things. Like, I think that Fields has potential, but also definitely there was a learning. One of the things I saw was a comment saying like he's going to at least be better than Mitchell Trubisky as a rookie. Like, well, he wasn't. Still doesn't mean he won't be better than Mitchell Trubisky, but Mitchell Trubisky would outplay Justin Fields last year.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of good things, or some good things, a lot of bad things still he's got to work out.
Yeah. That one Steelers game though, even though they lost, that was fun.
Yeah, they had some moments last year.
All right, here's the one that might be the best take on this list, Kyle. Seattle Seahawks. You knew this was coming. This was a absolute home run pick by you. You had the Seahawks as 4th in the division, and even with the Russell Wilson injury, they still didn't play well without it. When he wasn't there, give you the floor. Very nicely done, as this was one. I believe that podcast had the most downvotes out of any of them due to your Seahawks pick, which in hindsight is very funny.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel a little fortunate because obviously the Russell Wilson thing kind of took away the season to begin with. But part of the thing I said during that podcast when we were talking about it is I was like, okay, this team's kind of built around 3 guys. If Russell Wilson gets hurt, if one of those receivers gets hurt, or if Bobby Wagner gets hurt, I don't think this is a very good football team around them. So I think they're in really big trouble if any of those guys go down. One of those guys went down, who was probably the most important of those 3 guys too, and it derailed the season. And that's kind of just how it worked out. And it's bad injury luck, but injuries happen in football. So I think that's part of it. And yeah, I just thought it was a poorly constructed team. And I mean, you heard my coach's thing about it. I'm not a big Pete Carroll fan, and I continue not to be a big Pete Carroll fan. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Seahawks going forward. But that was a big thing that I said.
If the NFL outlaws the forward pass, the Seahawks are in business.
They'd be the best team. Pete Carroll is, chomping at the bits for that situation.
Yeah, I think so. How many head coaches do you think would vote for outlawing the forward pass? I think at least 7.
Carroll, Belichick. I wouldn't be surprised if Harbaugh's in that conversation because he'd just be like, I had the best roster for this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think maybe Kyle Shanahan.
Shanahan would be like, I'll make it work. On the top 5 offense.
Right.
I don't know who else would say yes beyond that, though.
Yeah.
Maybe Lovie Smith, because he's like, I'm used to it.
Right. Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith would be a good one. Yeah. That'll be in our next podcast, is ranking the top 32 teams in terms of who be most likely to vote against vote for a ban on the forward pass.
The only ones who would be really excited though are Dan Campbell is definitely in for that too, by the way.
I don't know. I feel like Dan Campbell's like sneakily I feel like he's a little sneakily like kind of a new school guy.
I think it could be. It could be. I feel like he's just saying that I need to be new school because it's the way to play football now. I feel like he wants to basically run goal line. He wants to run the wishbone.
Oh my God, Zac Taylor would vote so quickly for it. Zac Taylor practically thinks the forward pass is already banned.
He's like, I can run Joe Mixon into the ground. All right, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
The Patriots would be in an option offense tomorrow if they could.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, they think so. Let's move on. So 3 left. Let's do the one that we both had. Baker Mayfield. This was kind of one where we were kind of lower on Mayfield than others, kind of with saying, listen, he had so it seems weird that one of my worst takes was the Browns, but one of my best takes was Baker Mayfield. But we were both kind of saying, like, listen, I know Baker had a really good season last year. He was, like that tier 2 quarterback, like a Matt Ryan type. Not Matt Ryan now, but Matt Ryan, the way his career has typically been. But it was kind of more of a like, let's trust the bigger sample size here and let's be a little bit more cautious with Mayfield. I think that which proved to be true. Now, part of Mayfield's issues were injuries. So like, it's hard to know exactly how much, of a victory lap we want to take. But definitely I think we were right to be a little bit more cautious with Mayfield than maybe some other people who were already saying he's going to be a top 10 quarterback.
I agree that we were right on this, but I think this is that the Baker Hive is a little delusional. It's not quite QAnon, but the Baker Hive can be insane sometimes. Like Baker Hive after last season was saying that he's a top 10 quarterback.
Right.
And it was just not true even at his best. He wasn't a top 10 quarterback. And it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other fan bases who are like this. The QAnon one's a lot like it, although I think they're a little more extreme sometimes because they just pull up the most random stats to suit their argument.
Steelers fans are bad. Steelers fans will not take any criticism of any.
Yeah.
I tweeted out I didn't love the Minka Fitzpatrick extension. I would have given it another year before making it. And I've been arguing with Steelers fans all day today. So that's been my day.
Yeah, they didn't like it when we put them in biggest disappointments too, so I'm not surprised. But like another one too is like, so like when Kyle Lowry was on Toronto, if you didn't put Kyle Lowry in the top 5 point guard conversation, they'd get really mad. And it's just like he's nice, but he's not a top 5 point guard. So it's he's one of those. He has one of those fan bases. Browns fans are loyal. I love them for it, but I think they were quick to jump at this when I don't think it was true.
Yeah, listen, sports are about passion. We like the passionate stuff. I'm certainly, biased. When the other sports that I watch, I'm certainly a delusional fan in that regard. But for us here, who we try to be as objective as possible, it can sometimes be frustrating. A little, I guess frustrating is the right word. When we're making a, well thought out point and someone said, nah, he's great just because you think Baker Mayfield is funny on a commercial.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, he's certainly an entertaining guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if he bounces back in another situation, has a good career when he's healthy. But I don't think I think it's fair to say he's never going to be a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, seems unlikely, but I think you're right. There is still hope for him to, he'll be in the league for a while, certainly. So we have 2 takes left, one for each of us. My take is Micah Parsons. We were all high on Micah Parsons. Like, this isn't like, oh, I thought Micah Parsons would be good. Aren't I a genius? It was more so, I think I was very high on Micah Parsons. I said he was the best defensive player in this draft. I remember the biggest hot take that we had in our mock draft was me selecting him at number 6 to the Dolphins, which, the Dolphins got Jalen Waddle. They're not mad about it, but that was kind of a, that goes to show, I think, I was definitely higher on him than the general public. Yeah. And given how well of a season he had, I definitely feel vindicated.
Yeah, and I think I had him as my number 2 defensive player in the draft behind J.C. Horn, who I'm still holding out hope for. Obviously, the injury didn't help. But I think my one concern with Parson, if I remember correctly, was I was afraid of where he was going to play in the NFL. And it turns out being positionless was the best thing that ever happened for him. Right. Because he can just move all around the field and do all this stuff for Dan Quinn's defense. So the thing I was worried most about, he just said, well, I'll just be great at everything. And it worked out. So he's going to be awesome for the next decade. I'm excited to see it happen. And couldn't happen to a better fan base than the Cowboys, right?
Right. Are Cowboys fans actually that bad, or is just Skip Bayless that bad?
I guess that's the thing. So there's a couple upper echelon Cowboys fans like that have voices that are
Uh,
bad, but everybody, the rational Cowboys fans are fine.
yeah. Well, I feel like Patriots fans got this for a while, right? Where everyone said, "Oh, Patriots fans are the worst," but the reality is, like, it was just, like Dave Portnoy was annoying, but like most Patriots fans are actually like usually like very good fans.
Well, I mean, the thing is like, so I mean, this is the Boston sports fan, so obviously I'm a Boston sports fan for that, so that I
Hmm.
add to it. But it's
Right.
like Barstool and The Ringer are both propped up by Boston sports people.
Right.
So
Hmm.
obviously Boston sports is annoying because of it, because they have loud voices that talk about it all the time.
Yeah. 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 That's also, and also Dave won like 1,000 championships.
Yeah, that helps too.
Yeah, that helps as well. Finally, one last take. This is one that there's no way you remember, but it's just a sort of a fun one to end the show. Kyle, you called the Bolts over Habs in 5. You nailed it.
I'll take it. Uh, yeah, that wasn't a very competitive series. I said it wasn't going to be a very competitive series. I did
Mhm.
have that one right. I'll take credit for it. That's fine.
Yeah, it was funny. I saw this because I was reading through the comments of one of them where we talked about hockey, and someone said this Kyle guy should have stopped, never talk about hockey again.
Oh
Stick to
yeah,
football. He doesn't know what he's doing. Giving the Habs no credit whatsoever, and then you completely nailed
yeah. It wasn't the Habs hive came out of nowhere because like we
it.
we never talk hockey, and all of a sudden
Hmm.
all these Montreal fans in the. I remember this now. I remember all
Yeah,
these guys being upset.
and then you responded, I believe, after the dates. It's just at 11 months ago for all. So I don't know. I'm assuming it was after the series thing about that, and he said, "Yeah, this comment did not age well." So hey, if you wrote that comment and you're listening, we appreciate you.
Yeah, I anytime I can make fun of the Habs, it works out for me. Go Bruins, baby.
Yeah, and then man, that really was a nightmare series for you. Habs versus Lightning.
Yeah, I can't stand it. I'm ready for this thing to end.
Yeah.
As Kieran asked me here, I'm taking the
Hmm.
Avs just because I'm tired of seeing the Lightning win. I'm sick of this.
How many games?
I got the Avs. It's starting in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
I'll take the Avs in 7. Let's do that. I think that
Okay.
team's a buzzsaw right now.
Interesting. I honestly think maybe it's just my bias. I think the Lightning are going to have no trouble. I think that I'll say Lightning in 5. I just feel like with no Kadri for the Avalanche, yes, they have Makar and they have McKinnon who are unreal and like their top end talent could steal that. And it's not like they don't have depth, but the Lightning have better depth. I think their stars can hang with them. And just like the difference in goaltending, I think is just going to be so huge. You have a banged up Darcy Kemper versus Andre Vasilevsky. Like that's just I don't think you can win a 7-game series like that unless you really outshoot the Lightning, which I just don't know if they're capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, Quimper's been good this season. We'll see. Like you said, I don't
Sure.
think 100%, but at the same time, I don't know. Like, it's just so. I mean, I didn't think Edmonton was a very good conference finals team. We were talking about this a little bit pre-show,
Hmm.
but it just seems like even though Edmonton's not a good defensive team and doesn't have a good goaltender, it just seems like when Colorado gets going with speed, it just seems like nobody's stopping that. Like that team with speed is just insane when they get going down. Obviously, I think Tampa has a little bit of a physicality advantage, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's not the same, but people said the same about Florida, and that did not go too well. Like you need other move. Listen, I'm not saying that I'm not saying McKinnon isn't going to have plays where he blows by whoever is on defense for the Lightning on that particular shift and gets a goal. Like obviously he's incredible, and Cale Makar can do the same thing. Cale Makar could be a forward, like he's that good.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. But I just feel like as great as those two guys are, like Nikita Kucherov and Victor Hedman, like is that a clear advantage? I know that, I think the average person would say yes, McKinnon and Makar are, but like what? Hedman only had 85 points this year. Kucherov scores more points than McKinnon. So I don't think, again,
Right.
maybe that's homer goggles. I don't know. But I don't think it's like a clear one way or the other advantage there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said last year that Kucherov is the best player in hockey. So
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't think it's a clear advantage.
And what's
So
funny is I remember that, and I responded and said I think I'd probably still go McDavid and McKinnon. So I mean, there you go.
yeah, I mean, I still think Kucherov's amazing. I think what he does is so underrated. Um, I'm just most of my ass take is that I'm done seeing the Lightning win. I'm done with your happiness.
Uh-huh.
That's all it is.
Understandable. Listen, I get it. I don't not understand it. It should be a lot of fun. I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's funny though. I completely forgot that we just got a bunch of random Habs fans today.
Yeah. I guess maybe the Avalanche fans will come after me at this one.
Yeah, good thing it all worked out for the Habs. Now they're rolling, baby.
Hey, Shane Wright.
I guess good for them.
What an insane thing that happened, that the Habs somehow made the Stanley Cup final. That it was hilarious because like you could say they had a week's like schedule. They still had to beat Toronto, who was good. I know it's Toronto, like they always choke, but like they still had to beat Toronto. They still had to beat the Knights. And then it's like, oh, maybe they're better than they realized. And they played the Lightning and just totally weren't better than we realized. Like they were totally horrible.
Well, as my memory is coming back to me with all this, I think part of my take too was that North Division was stupid. And
Uh-huh.
the way they set up the playoff brackets, because hockey's the only one that actually cares about division still. The way the
Hmm.
playoff bracket was set up is that they had to beat two teams in the North Division to make it to the conference finals. And I'm
Hmm.
like, the North Division stunk last season and still kind of stinks. Canada's not very good at hockey. USA. And so I was just like, okay, well, if they're going to roll through the North Division, I'm not trusting them to beat an actual good competitive hockey team. And it worked out that way.
Yeah. One last thought on hockey before we end the show, just because we're here. I think Lightning do a better job of shutting down, other teams' best lines. Anthony Cirelli has done an incredible. The Cirelli line in general has done an incredible job with guys like Barkov, guys like Matthews, and even the Zibanejad line. Zibanejad got nothing going once the Cirelli line got put on there. So again, I don't think either of those guys are McKinnon, but those are still three very talented players, three very talented lines, and I could see them at least slowing down McKinnon, which is why I feel confident. But I'm sure, listen, I felt confident going into the Rangers series and went down 2-0 and nearly lost that one. So who knows?
Yeah. Are you going to any games?
I was looking at it. The tickets are really expensive, this one. I mean, for game 6, like I think the cheapest one right now is $800, which is just like, it's hard to really justify that.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very tempting. Maybe I'll consider it if like I know they have a chance to clinch it. But then the last thing you want to do is spend $800 and then see your team lose.
Yeah, did you go last round?
I did not go. So I did not go last round. I went to 2 games in the Toronto series, and then I also went to a game in Sunrise against the Panthers. So
Yeah.
I've got to see a decent amount. And I went to a conference final game last year against the Islanders.
Yeah, because I remember I mean, it's 11 years now. I went to a conference finals game in Tampa when they played Boston,
Uh-huh.
and those tickets at that time were like 160. I can't imagine it's even close to that now. It's probably
Yeah.
double, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I remember. I think it was for mine was like around 300 or so for that. And I remember Game 7 was over 500 last year, and now it's gotten even higher. Where it's raised even more. So yeah,
Yeah. So it's tough. These tickets are kind of crazy, but once in a
it's good.
lifetime chance, maybe.
Yeah, good problem to have.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, certainly. So, all right, well, that's our show. Thank you to everyone for listening to this. Next week, we will have kind of more of a, this was definitely very much a sort of fun, silly show, kind of more of a serious show, although we're never fully serious here on the Sideline Podcast. But Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Grana, and make sure to follow the account page. That's at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK.
Yes, of course. Anywhere you get your podcast, On the Sideline Podcast, search that. It should be available if you want to listen to it. Kyle, any final thoughts?
85 days till football season. Looking forward to it.
Yes, 85 days should be, hopefully it should be fun. Very much looking forward to it. Okay, everyone, thank you again for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. And until next time, see you later, alligator.
Peace.